Here we go.
Welcome to another groovy edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast, where we would gladly consult the Necronomicon if we could improve our ratings just a little. Right, guys?
Workshed.
Alright, so, as always, you can reach us by email at thepicreview.com, or a quick reminder to like us on Facebook. Just search TH Epic Review for breaking epic news daily. As always, the format of the show will follow its usual routine. We will get into what we were checking out this week. We'll get into the epic news items of the week. And then we will get into our featured review of the week, The Evil Dead Remake. Joining me today, as always, is
Jerry Reed, also known as Barbecue 17.
And also joining us here today,
Gina Wiltshire, also known as Junior Beaner.
Alright guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. Jerry Reed, what have you been checking out this week?
I did something that I've wanted to do for quite some time. I was actually out taking the pictures in the woods for my King He-Man review that I did of the Masters of the Universe Classics figure. And I started taking pictures, and I started getting this idea of wanting to tell a story through the pictures that I was doing. There's a thing called Dio stories that a lot of folks do.
And I just noticed that you're the only one who has a wife and a child on the way who actually does Dio stories. So I thought that was something pretty cool.
Absolutely not true.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm just
If you want to check out, there is a website that's called Joe Dio's. That's like, I think, all G.I. Joe Dio stories. And there's a guy named General Hawk on generalsjoes.com that does some amazing Dio stories. I mean, talking like really long, in-depth stories. Very cool. I just was doing some pictures and said, okay, I'm going to write some text that go along with these. So I worked on them over the weekend, got all the pictures posted. So you can go to my Flickr account, www.flickr.com/photos/barbecue17, and you can check out my Dio story. It's called The Beginning of the Last Days of King He-Man. So it's kind of like an end story that I sort of, this King He-Man figure kind of represents He-Man, near the end of his life. And so I wrote this story that was just about him, coming to terms with all the loss that he's seen and, how he's going to structure his rule. It was really fun. I had a really good time doing it.
And there's great shots and angles for all aspects of the Masters of the Universe collecting world, right? I mean, you put in some great work and we get some great angles on King He-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do the best I could. I mean, with the Masters of the Universe Classics...
you did very well.
Thank you.
Great.
With the storyline there's not a lot that talks about, what happens in the future. We've kind of learned a lot about the past of He-Man and, all the events of the current, but there's not a lot. This is the first time we've ever seen He-Man at this age in the Masters of the Universe, story. And so I just thought, okay, if I were, doing a story or a movie or something, how would I wrap this up? And it's what I did.
You're doing what John Chu will be doing 10 years from now. When
Perhaps.
He-Man's a multi-billion-dollar film franchise.
When He-Man 9 comes out, Masters of the Universe 9, this is what'll happen, and John Chu can gladly borrow my ideas if he wants to.
Very cool. You put in the effort to do that. Gina, what have you been checking out this week?
Well, I think it was either last week or the week before. Eureka Season 5 was released on DVD and Netflix. At least it was sent to Netflix. And
Did you shed a tear when this happened?
A little. I was excited. I was halfway through Season 4, getting to the end of Season 4, and I didn't know the kind of cliffhanger that was going to be on Season 4.
Just for the audience's sake, sit up, Eureka. Just give us the premise of the show,
okay.
Not a synopsis.
Right.
She is a sorceress in training who lives in a castle with a dragon named Magellan.
That's Eureka's Castle, the popular Nickelodeon TV show from the early 90s.
Sorry, I thought that's what Gina was watching this week.
I wish that was on Netflix, though.
Eureka!
But Gina, continue.
So Eureka is a show that ran on Sci-Fi, and you can find all 5 seasons now on Netflix. It follows a story of U.S. Marshal Jack Carter turned sheriff of the small but busy town of Eureka. And let me tell you a little bit about the town of Eureka. It was established after World War II as a kind of hidden, safe place for the nation's brightest scientists. And so there's this huge...
It's almost like a city think tank.
Not a city. It's very much meant to look like a small town.
Small town.
Okay.
Very
Sorry.
small town feeling with, a single main street downtown strip.
Kind of like Boiling Springs.
Actually, it's probably nicer than Boiling Springs.
Okay.
Boiling Springs being the very luxurious neighborhood and section of the Hollywood foothills that Gina's from. So,
Went to college in.
yeah, she
not
went to
from.
college in the Hollywood
We got
foothills.
Georgia, so that's a good place
North
to
Carolina.
eat. We got good food.
But anyway, so yes, you're right. It is kind of like a think tank. Global Dynamics is the name of the big sort of like technology and design company there. And it is actually run by the Department of Defense.
This is kind of sounds a lot like Massive Dynamic in the TV show Fringe, if you've ever seen that, but continue.
So they, so it's all of the brightest scientists and thinkers in our nations today.
So Reed Richards is there, Tony Stark, people like that,
I
right?
wish, but no,
Professor
And they're not the brightest stars of today.
I'm sure there's some
Dr.
copyright
Thaddeus
issue in
Venture.
there.
Yes. Just joking.
But anyway, so of course, it's a comedy show, and so you have all these bright people, but for some reason they're not bright enough to figure out, hey, if we do this and then do this, and they'll interact and create some kind of big crisis. So that...
Like
It's
the
a
Big
show-
Bang Theory.
Yeah, but no, it sounds like a show about the writers at DC Comics. They just can't figure out what they want to do.
What they're doing.
What they're doing, and it's
Let's
just...
let Gina tell her story.
Alright, go ahead. I'm
All
sorry,
right.
Gina.
That's okay. I gotta keep you boys in line. So, yeah. So, there are a couple of characters that we follow throughout the entire seasons. And of course, the main focus is on Jack Carter. And we have his daughter, Zoe Carter, who comes to live with him. Allison Blank, who is an agent for the Department of Defense, oftentimes referred to as the DOD.
Yes.
Joe Lupo, who is the town's deputy, so she works in tandem with Carter. Douglas Fargo, who is the town's quote-unquote idiot, because he's not, obviously, if he's brilliant enough to be in this town, he's not an idiot. He's just kind of a klutz, and he tends to push the wrong button. And then Henry Deacon, who is a car mechanic, but he was actually a NASA engineer. So you kind of have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-ish, and there are characters, major characters that come in and out, like Felicia Day comes in about mid of season 4 as a major character.
So you're saying we should start the show about the middle of season 4?
Negative, that is not what I'm saying.
Okay.
But apparently that is what all you guys are hearing. So all these major characters, it's their job to kind of work together throughout the course of the episode to, one, figure out what went wrong, and then fix it. And every episode pretty much is set up exactly the same.
Is it kind of very self-contained and within each episode, or is it a building story throughout
Both.
seasons?
Both. Usually
Okay.
the episode is... There are events that begin in the episode and then are resolved by the end of the episode. But there are very large streams that flow throughout all of the seasons. So yeah, it's kind of these characters' jobs to save the day. And it was really enjoyable. It is extremely funny. The guy who plays Jack Carter is very physically and facially comedic, and he just has a great character. His character is actually kind of like, he's the dumb guy, he's the dumb cop, basically, but for some reason he's the one that always ends up saving the day. It's his simple, everyman sort of answer that...
Common sense.
that fixes the problem. So I just really enjoy it as a very kind of pleasurable sci-fi sort of show.
Did it cross over with Fringe or something? Didn't it have a
No.
crossover?
Not
with
with
that?
Fringe.
No.
Was that Warehouse 13 that crossed over with
No,
Fringe?
Warehouse 13 and Eureka
crossed
over.
over. Okay.
Yeah, I think that happened in season 3.
Is it a 30-minute or hour-long show?
I think it's an hour-long show because I believe most of the episodes are around 40 minutes on
so
Netflix.
that would be with commercials an
Yeah.
hour. So, all right. So, Gina was checking out Eureka Season 4, and you can find that
And
on
5.
Netflix, along with all the seasons of Eureka.
Yeah, and they're great. I highly recommend them.
Just get into what I've been checking out. I finally got a chance to watch Judd Apatow's latest comedy, This Is 40. This is a movie I was really wanting to see around the holiday time, but just with people being in town and stuff like that, and a lot of other releases jammed in there, I missed it. Knocked Up was one of my favorite movies of 2007. I think it was one of the best comedies of the last decade. And this is a spin-off of Knocked Up. It's kind of the characters of Pete and Deb, played by Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann, who are kind of this couple. They love each other, but they just don't have the same type of personality. They can't really never get on the same page. What keeps them going is just their love for each other. They really don't click, but they're committed to marriage. They have 2 kids, and they want to do what it takes to get through it. They were side characters in Knocked Up because it was Leslie Mann's sister, played by Katherine Heigl, who got knocked up by Seth Rogen, and they kind of interact. And in that film, you kind of had, all right, here's the so-called responsible way of parenting. Older, well-established, have more money, good jobs, nice house, nice cars. And here's what happens when you get knocked up. So this movie was kind of meant to build off those characters that were established and just see where are Pete and Deb later on in life. And it was a very interesting movie. It was marketed as a comedy, and it has some very funny scenes, but overall it's really a serious movie about 2 very different people who, although they love each other, they have struggles in their marriage and just trying to just work through that. And there are some, I've heard some people say there's some uncomfortable moments. Apatow does a really good job of making it feel real. And so on that note, making it feel real, Leslie Mann, who maybe you know her, she's in a lot of comedies. She kind of broke on the scene in Big Daddy. She was kind of the B sister to the gal that Adam Sandler liked, if you remember that.
Okay.
But she's Judd Apatow's real
wife.
Yeah, real life wife.
Okay.
And their kids are Judd Apatow's real life kids.
Interesting.
So yeah, it is very interesting. So it feels very real. I don't know if they've had any kind of marital problems. I don't think so. But it's just it's a very interesting and very smart look at the modern marriage.
And reading your review of this movie, it sounds like it really, I mean, you're not 40, but it really affected you in some way.
It really spoke to me just because of my relationship, and just I've experienced this even at a young age, and it really did speak to me a little bit.
This is 25.
Yeah, this is 25. I almost said this. I called a friend up after I saw it, excuse me. And I was like, I think I've just seen a vision from the future. He's like, what did you see? I said it was in the form of a movie. He's like, did you watch one of the Best Picture nominees? I'm like, no, I've already seen all those, with the exception of Amore. I was like, no, This Is 40. And it's kind of, no matter how hard this couple tries, the number one thing they have in common is their love for each other, how much they care for each other, and their commitment to their family and to each other. But it is a very just real look about the struggles of when 2 people just don't quite click, but they have that bond of love. And you're maybe thinking, I wrote in my review that it is a very real look at the modern marriage. And the thing is, you're like, hey, if you look at Knocked Up, Pete was a music agent at Sony, and he made a ton of money. They had a nice house. Well, in this one, Judd Apatow really puts these characters through the ringer. you know, 2012 is a lot different than 2007 was.
That's true.
And it's evident in this movie. The economy's bad. Pete's ventured out on his own, started his own record label, is struggling. Their kids are growing up. They have a teenage daughter now. And just nothing goes really smooth for them on top of their marital problems. So it's a comedy. It's a very heavy comedy. A lot of Apatow's comedies are. Because he tries to find that blend between comedy and drama. Almost a dramedy.
I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but I mean, even 40-Year-Old Virgin was a movie that was ridiculously silly at times. And then at other times, it really had a sweetness to it.
It had heart.
Yeah, I mean, it really did.
And that was Judd Apatow. Judd Apatow's produced and written a ton of other movies. All those, usually those Seth Rogen, Michael Cera, Jay Baruchel, Jason Segel, Jonah Hill, that whole group, often referred to as the Apatow Mafia.
Yeah.
Kind of coming after the frat pack that was Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. So this is kind of this generation's who's who of comedy. He's behind them. He helped launch their careers. He produces a lot of their films. He writes a lot. And is
he involved with the
This Is the End?
This Is the End?
No, he's not. That is actually Seth Rogen's directorial debut. So he's directing that film.
I have to say, there's a lot of those guys, as mentioned off the podcast. I'm not a huge comedy. I mean, I like a lot of comedies. But I'm not always the one to go out and, like, try new comedies and watch new comedies. I kind of... They're definitely, like, probably the last movies I'm going to check out.
Yeah, they're a movie that Jerry will say, hey, I'll put off. Maybe I'll catch it on DVD.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll...
Or if I hear enough people saying really good things about it later on. But that... This Is the End?
Yeah, I believe that's...
Looks really funny. Just the part when Emma Watson comes through the door and they're like, you know, Hermione just stole our stuff. It's so just really funny that all those actors are playing themselves, which looks really funny.
It's Danny McBride's in that too, and Craig Robinson and Paul Rudd's a part of that group. I mean, everybody who is a big name in comedy is going to at least cameo in that film.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a very epic. Probably one of
funny.
It's hard to believe that a comedy would be one of my top 5 most anticipated movies of the summer, with so many great superhero movies and stuff coming out and science fiction movies. But I mean, it really is. Just because I'm a fan of that Apatow group.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of the generation you were growing up with. You have a connection with those comedic stars. You know, in the 80s, it was Chevy Chase, Martin Short,
Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, Steve Martin, Belushi's.
Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray, definitely Bill Murray. And then in the 90s, you had the Happy Madison group with Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, Rob Schneider, Dave Spade.
Jim Carrey would be in there even though he didn't cross
Jim
over
Carrey's
with him
kind of his own thing. He was so big, he was almost his own brand of
but
comedy.
But he'd be in that
the
same
90s.
sort of time period.
Oh, same time period. And then in the early 2000s, you had the frat pack.
Yeah, I'm more of the frat pack because that was when I was in high school and college. So.
Yeah, and
Ben Stiller.
Mine's more the Apatow group. So I mean, his comedies are just they really speak to you. Funny people, just a fantastic film. And see, a lot of the problems people have with his films is they're like, all right, I'm expecting this laugh out loud comedy, and it may have those laugh out loud moments, but at the same time, they're very long. They all run over 2 hours. You know that from 40-Year-Old Virgin.
And they deal with some heavy subject matter.
They're real life
They
issues.
are not comedies you just go into looking for just to laugh and forget about things. They're more like dramedies.
Yes.
So,
yeah, dramedies. Not like something like Burt Wonderstone where you can just kind of turn off for an hour and a half. But
it sounds good. It sounds like an interesting movie. So
yes, it is. I recommend it. I confirmed it at a good and a half. The only reason is it's a very long running time, and there's almost points where you just get upset during the film because you care about these characters because you started caring about them in 2007 and Knocked Up, and here they are. Here's their kids. Here's all the struggles, and it really kind of puts you through the ringer for a comedy.
Yeah.
And it can be a bit heavy.
An emotional roller coaster.
And Seth Rogen didn't cameo. He should have cameoed.
That is really odd.
And this was the...
You just wonder why not.
I mean, Apatow, and Seth Rogen was in Apatow's film 40-Year-Old Virgin, and he was a name, but I mean, knocked up launched him to being near the top of the A-list as far as comedic guys, and he rode that into like Pineapple Express and Zack and Miri Make a Porno and movies like that. So Katherine Heigl, I didn't expect her to cameo because she's just a flat out B. She's just a terrible person who treats everybody she works with like utter crap. On Grey's Anatomy, on every set she's on, she makes their life a living hell. Gosh. So I was glad not to see her not come back. But I like to see Seth Rogen come back with his son. But so I confirmed it at a good and a half. I definitely recommend it. Go get it at a Redbox, or if you can order it on demand, it's worth $6. So Jerry, what else you been checking out?
Well, talking about movies that changed your life, I've been watching the Alien movies this week. We've been watching through them. We started actually with watching Prometheus a couple weeks ago because I was in the mood to watch Prometheus again, which every time I watch that movie, it gets better. I mean, honestly, I think it's going to be more. I was reading some stuff. I mean, the original Alien, people saw that movie and they said it wasn't very good. And now it's considered, Empire Magazine put it as like one of their top 50 movies of all time.
Yes.
I mean, it's considered that good.
And if you were going off the science fiction alone, it would be in the top 5 or 10.
Exactly. It just sometimes takes a while for a movie to really sink in. So we watched Prometheus, we watched Alien. This week we finished Aliens and Alien 3. We watched the director's cut version of Alien 3, which is a lot better than the regular version. It's a little bit longer.
But it's still the weakest film of the franchise, I would say.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to watch Alien Resurrection again, which I have not watched for quite some time. Probably haven't seen Alien Resurrection, honestly, since it was in theaters. Yes. So it's going to be interesting watching that, because that's,
who's the android in that? The female actress.
Winona Ryder is called.
Name was escaping me.
Yeah.
I liked her in that movie as the android. Yeah. Seeing Winona Ryder.
Well, they've always had some really good androids in the Alien series. You have oh my gosh, Bilbo Baggins. What's his name? Ian Holm. Ian Holm is the android in the first movie.
Yes, he's the classic android.
Yeah, and then Lance Henriksen's Bishop in 2 and 3, and then you have Winona Ryder as Call in Resurrection. But I think we're going to go through and watch those, and then watch both Predators, and then Predators, and then watch Alien vs. Predator 1 and 2.
Which I couldn't stand. I did very much dislike the first AVP. AVP 2 was just a fun movie. I loved that. I went and saw it on Christmas Day.
I haven't seen it. I wanted to see it.
It's a blast.
Yeah. I kind of liked the first Alien vs. Predator. Wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I remember enjoying it. So, once again, some of these, Alien's a movie I watch probably a couple times a year. Aliens, I had a Laserdisc.
Did you watch it? You didn't watch it on Laserdisc now.
Not now.
You don't have a Laserdisc player.
When I was no, I don't have it anymore. We were gone somewhere. I was gone out like town or something. My parents had a yard sale. And my dad sold the Laserdisc player, which
kept that.
Well, yeah, we should have kept it just because, who the heck had a Laserdisc player? Not many people. But he sold it. And the thing was, I only have like 3 movies for the Laserdisc. I had Street Fighter, which is a movie I absolutely love. It's like my ultimate guilty pleasure movie is the Jean-Claude Van Damme Street Fighter.
What's the quote from Street Fighter you love to quote?
Come out from behind the curtain, wizard.
That's one. But there's like a quote where he's like, "Today that was a win."
Oh yeah. Bison's talking to Chun-Li, and she's talking about how Bison destroyed her village and killed her family, and her father and a bunch of guys were fighting against Bison soldiers, and they had rakes and pitchforks, and his guys had guns, and they were his guys were running away, and Bison goes, "For you. The day Bison graced your life, the day you met Bison was the greatest day of your life. For me, it was Tuesday." It is a ridiculously over-the-top movie, but on Laserdisc we had Total Recall, we had Street Fighter, and we had Aliens. To watch the Alien Special Edition on Laserdisc, I swear you had to get up and you had to flip the disc, flip each disc at least once. and it was 2 or 3 discs. It's such a long movie, but it's really good.
That's cool that you had that laser disc.
I know.
I never had one.
My dad sold it. So my parents' house, they still have Aliens, Total Recall, and Street Fighter and Laserdisc.
You might can
but
pick
they
one
don't
up.
have the player.
Maybe at a flea market one
I
day.
know, right? So if they still exist.
That's like my mom. What is it with parents and selling like awesome things in yard sales and garage sales without us knowing? But my mom sold all of my brother's like original Star Wars figurines and like the original Millennium Falcon.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Like she had them all in a box, and like a cardboard box, and I think she sold the entire cardboard box for like $25.
That's crazy. Even lose those figures.
Some dude
are
probably
worth a little
retired
bit.
off that. No.
Yeah,
But,
seriously.
That's one of the things. I mean, we had a DVD player. We probably had all those movies on DVD at the time, but still it was just kind of cool to have a Laserdisc player.
You bring up Laserdisc, and I've been going through a little bit of a horror fad, watching some horror movies lately. A lot of people are going back to watching, especially horror movies for some reason, on VHS. What's your opinion on that fad? I mean, it does that. You get they always had cool box art.
Yeah.
Those VHS little slip covers, and I don't know, it's just something retro, like you're watching a movie on film.
It was the movie House of the Devil that was directed by Ty West that is actually listed as the final film to be released on VHS format.
Wow.
A couple years ago. Maybe a year, 2-3 years ago at the most. Now, once again, somebody could honestly go back and release that movie. VHS was the huge horror VHS movies was really what helped rental chains, because horror movies were something that people would rent a lot of. They would watch them together, sleepovers and stuff.
Yeah.
And people could do low budget horror movies. Typically action movies, comedies, stuff like that. People are looking for what they know. Horror movies, you're just kind of looking at the box for some reason.
Yes.
And I think you're more willing to gamble on it, because even if it's bad, it can still be really entertaining.
Enjoyable.
Maybe you pick up a leprechaun in the hood or something.
Exactly. And, there's a long tradition of some of these direct-to-video movies, even people making sequels for these movies, especially in foreign countries, making sequels to big-name movies. Like, The House, I don't know if you've ever seen House, the House movies. It's a really great kind of a comedy horror series.
I have not.
There's one called House. The first House has George Wendt, who was Norm in Cheers, on it. The second one has John Ratzenberger, who was Cliff Clavin on Cheers, but he's in every Pixar movie.
Yes, he's the pig.
Yeah, he's the
from
pig.
Toy Story.
Anyways,
Mack truck.
so in other countries, they started just making movies, and they just make horror movies and say, okay, well, let's call it House 3. Let's call it House 4.
Those people are familiar
somebody
with
make
the title.
a movie. Somebody make a movie, and they're like, let's just call it House. That's how Troll 2 got made. The movie Troll 2 that's notorious as one of the best, worst movies of all time.
Yeah.
There was a movie called Troll. It had good video rental numbers. And so they're like, okay, well, some guy made this weird movie about goblins, and they're like, goblins are close enough to trolls. Let's call it Troll 2. But we've been watching through Aliens, and, that's just been a really exciting, entertaining experience for me.
So one other thing I've been checking out this week, I finally bought my first McFarlane Walking Dead action figure. Well, it was a 3-pack. It was the black and white, bloody Michonne with her 2 pet walkers.
Mm-hmm.
Or she's referred to sometimes in Deep South comic book stores, Shone. Quick story, I went in looking for this figure at Collector's World in Gastonia, North Carolina, where we go for all of our collectible and comic book needs. But I go in, I'm speaking with Jim, who you've heard about on this show. And I said, Jim, do you have a Michonne action figure from The Walking Dead? He's like, oh yeah, I got a Michonne right here. And he goes in the back and he hands me a Shane Walsh action figure. I said, no, not Shane, Michonne. The with the katanas and the walker. He's like, oh no, I don't have her. I just got Shone. He called it Shone again. I was like, okay, sorry. So I ordered it from Big Bad Toy Store. It was a 3-pack. They all come
It's
through.
exclusive to them, right? The black and white with blood.
It's not exclusive to Big Bad Toy Store. You can get it a couple other places. Okay. I have not seen it at any comic book stores.
Some of them do those shared online exclusives. Sometimes it's like Entertainment Earth and Big Bad share.
Yes, Entertainment Earth had it and Big Bad had it. And that's the only two people that's had it, so maybe it is
Could be a shared exclusive with them.
To those two, but I was kind of hesitant on picking up any of these figures because we've talked about it. They're a little 5-inch. They're kind of off scale. And so I like this character. I like Michonne. And I think it's cool because she has the hood and you can sit her up with the walkers that are chained.
Well, and you've got 3 figures and it looks good displayed on its own because it's 3 figures that naturally belong together.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I were picking up 1 or 2 figures, I have 1/18 scale, I have 6-inch scale, I have 7-inch scale, I have 8-inch scale, I have 12-inch. I don't really have that many 5-inch except old lines from the 90s. People don't really make 5-inch anymore. Except McFarlane now, apparently. So
maybe it's just
because their Halo line is like a 5-inch scale,
too. And they have something to do with kind of being a little more economically friendly. Kind of the only charge, but they charge $15 a piece for the individual
They're not really
figures.
cheaper than anything like NECA puts out.
That's true. But I would pay $5 for extra, like a 6-inch scale figure.
Oh, definitely.
So I get it, and it's a beautiful sculpt to be on a smaller figure. And Michonne's she's a great figure, but those walkers that came with bases and they had like the metallic chains on them, those walkers looked amazing. I mean, they looked great. I said in my that I would probably confirm them at an Epic and confirm Michonne. I did it. Confirm Michonne is a great. But they were cool. Now, I will say that it was a bit pricey. Now, I believe this is an online exclusive, and it retails for $35.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you have to pay $10 shipping. That's a $45 for 3 5-inch action figures. And that was a bit pricey, but they were nice. They were well sculpted. My only problem with the figure, aside from the price, was the way they put articulation in these figures, but to the detriment of the figure. So you're looking on Michonne's arm, and there's like all these holes, and you're like, this looks bad.
The articulation has been really weird on those figures. Like, a lot of companies, I mean, either have a really nice posable figure, you know, and you can see the joints, but that's part of being a toy. You have no articulation, or McFarlane's kind of that weird middle ground where there's some articulation, but it's wonky.
Yes,
that's the technical term I'll use. It's wonky, and it's in odd places and it does odd things. I mean, can you get her in a lot of different poses? I mean, that makes sense. Like not like something where she looks like she's doing YMCA. I mean, can you get her in like normal poses?
About the best pose you'll get is switching the direction of the katana.
Okay.
And the footing's annoying. It's hard to get her to stand up straight. But, you get her where you want her to be. So, it's...
Laugh it up, Gina. Laugh it up. Laugh it up.
Leave it for the girl to have this kind of dirty mind. Because we never have anything like that on this show.
I thought it was just because of the weird noises I was making.
She's the position of Michonne or Shone.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So, anyway, but I would give it a grade and a half overall. The set. If you're gonna pick up just one Walking Dead, I recommend getting this set because she's very representative of the show. She's a very popular character, and when you set up that pose with her and her 2 walkers, it really looks like it just popped off the screen or off the pages of the comic.
Do you like the black and white paint job?
I do. It's a little odd because Michonne is black, so her skin is black, and it's not. It's like they didn't commit to the black and white. It was kind of off color.
Mm-hmm.
There was some.
So it's more like on a
to
grayscale.
Yes,
which
exactly
is black and white typically. I mean, they're meaning like the comic because the comic's black and white, but obviously that means there's a grayscale print to it as well.
Yes, it was more of a grayscale would be the best way to describe it. So I'm glad I picked it up. I'm going to pick up a few of those. I'm going to get Carl and Andrew just because the sculpts are so good.
I've considered Carl if I think he can look good because I have a big horror collection, and horror stuff I'm more lenient to picking up no matter what scale it is, except for zombie related stuff. because all of my zombie killers are all in like 7-inch scale. I got my NECA Shaun of the Dead. I've got my Sebastian Half. I've got my Ashes. I've got all my Resident Evil figures. All my figures from Planet Terror. They're all like in that same 6 to 7-inch scale that look okay together. All my zombies are in like a 6 to 7-inch scale.
Michonne can take on giant zombies.
She can take on giant zombies, but it'd look really odd with her next to like somebody else. It'd be like she'd look like a little, like a leprechaun or something next to him.
Toys like this they're almost become like McDonald's toys with the size, not the sculpt. The sculpting is beautiful, but I'm looking at some of the stuff for Iron Man 3. And let's talk about that for a second if we've got the time.
Yeah,
so let's talk about it for a second because I'm thinking. I was having a conversation with somebody. I said, the Iron Man movie toys are a great commentary on the state of the economy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You look at the first set of figures from Iron Man 1 back in 2008. They had some nice big 6 to 7-inch Iron Man.
They were 5 inches.
Well, they had 5-inch, but they also had a more deluxe figure that would run you about $12, almost in the size of a Marvel Legends figure.
Yeah. They did do that, but the main figures there were 5 inches, and during that summer, before Iron Man came out, Hasbro decided to cut their movie figures to that kind of 5.5 inch scale. So they were almost too short to go with your Marvel Legends, which are in a 6-inch scale. They did it for Spider-Man 3. They did it for Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and then they went back and did it with Iron Man as well.
Yes, but as the economy gets worse,
sure,
right before 2008, before the financial collapse and everything went to crap,
things were a little bigger.
And then we get to Iron Man 2, a little smaller, and then we're here, like you said,
Iron Man 2s went down to, they released some that were in the 6-inch true Marvel Legends scale. They were in scale with everything else. They were more expensive. Their main line was 1/18 scale. They had the Marvel Universe line going. And once again, the 1/18 scale, that's about 4 inches. That line is huge with collectors. That is Star Wars. That's G.I. Joe. That's, Marvel Universe. So the Iron Man 2 figures from Hasbro in that 1/18 scale were some of the nicest that have ever come out in that scale.
Yes, I do. I have
They're beautiful.
The silver suitcase in that series. It's great
beautiful.
figure.
The comic version's beautiful.
Jerry, I pulled up some pictures via AF Times blog spot, and this is some of the photos from the Iron Man. I know our listeners can't see it. That's Iron Man 1. What was that?
5.5. I have them in the other room.
Okay, because I have only one figure from that series, and it was the Ironmonger.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a bigger
Does yours have the blue chest or the red chest?
The blue chest.
Mine has the red chest.
Is that more rare?
I woke up the morning I knew they were coming out. I got off work because I worked overnight at the time. I went to Walmart in Shelby, and I bought all of them. Man, I was so excited.
They were very well done.
They're pretty nice. They're pretty nice. I still have them.
Too, they got smaller, but just like you said, great detail.
Yeah, they were better, more articulation. I mean, Hasbro they're wizards at the 1/18 scale. These figures for Iron Man 3 cross all of their lines. Hasbro is trying to create cost efficient
kind of options for consumers.
I think the best way to look at this and what Hasbro is doing is look at Star Wars Black. Okay? Later this year, we're going to see Star Wars figures that do the same thing. They're going to have that 5 points of articulation. Probably the head, shoulders, hips. That's all. They're realizing, listen, parents are going to the store. They're not really interested in what, really these figures are doing. They're not looking at the detail. Unless the parents are collectors, then they're probably not caring how much the kids spend on toys. The kids really aren't caring. Most kids are just grabbing toys off the shelf because they like the character or they want something. So Hasbro's like, well, so if we can cut to that $4, $5, $6 price point, that makes us competitive. That's what they're doing with Iron Man 3. But they've also got the Marvel Legends Iron Man figures out. Those are about $15, $16. Once again, they fit in with Marvel Legends scale, nice articulation.
One thing that aggravated me, you're talking about the Marvel Legends scale for Iron Man 3 figures. right now they have the comic book Heroic Age Iron Man and Iron Patriot from the comic book. And they're going to release, I saw the figures this week, they look nice, the kind of extremist, the more gold armor.
Yeah.
And they're going to release a traditional War Machine.
And Ultron.
And really, Ultron.
Yeah, Ultron's the third figure in the second wave.
Okay, but the thing is, I read, I'm not 100%, maybe you can fix this for me, Jerry. It says they're not hitting till this fall.
I had seen fall originally, but I imagine they're probably going to hit a little bit earlier.
It seems odd. The movie's coming out right now, yet you give me figures with Iron Man 3 packaging with comic book versions of the characters, which I love, by the way. I love. It's
a way to get that stuff out there for collectors. It's a way to justify it.
It is a way to get it out there for collectors, but the
DVD's going to come out too. Once again, they plan.
That's true. Very
now
good
that we
point.
know when DVD releases hit, generally once a movie hits, toy companies do that. They'll plan to have a wave come out when the DVD hits.
I need my extremist armor now, Jerry. Now. Not when the movie comes out.
I think the Ultron looks cool. I don't think he's as nice as the Diamond.
Of course, he's not. As far as we know, Ultron is not in the movie.
And I don't think these are intended to be. These are very much intended to be just general comic book inspired armors.
But there are two figures in the Legends line that will intend to be. There's going to be the traditional, like the extremist suit from the movie, and then the War Machine from the movie, which is the Iron Patriot
They've done this with all the Iron Man movies. I mean, Iron Man 1 had a Titanium Man figure that came out. In a, Iron Man 2 had, oh my gosh, they had Ironmonger come out. They had a couple different people that never showed up. The Vault Guardsman that never showed up in Iron Man 2. Just to get those figures out for collectors who want those characters. And you're pulling it up right now.
Yes, I am. So here we go.
There's Ultron.
Toy store. This is the... you have three figures. You have an Ultron, like Jerry was saying. We have the Iron Patriot version of War Machine right out of the film.
That's very cool looking.
It's the Mark 42 armor, which will be the movie Extremis armor. So those are supposed to hit in the fall, and you can go to Big Bad Toy Store and pre-order those. It looks like you can get a case of 2 for $125. If you just want a set of all 3, they're $50.
Case of 3 for $50,
case of 3 for $50.
You can order a whole case of them if you want,
Yeah.
You can hang them on pegs at your house and pretend
Jerry.
Okay.
If these figures, the 5-inch, the 6-inch, the Marvel Legends, aren't doing it for you have a couple options. You can either go with the Marvel Select, which they're doing Iron Man 3 figures.
Sure.
You can go, which they're very nice. The faceplate opens and they're very nice.
They are nice.
Or you can go with the Hot Toys version, which is they're going to be very nice. They're doing die cast this time around.
Are you serious?
Yes, for the
oh my gosh,
Iron Patriot Hot Toy. And
how much do you think one of those would weigh?
Mark 42, about 6 pounds.
Wow,
that's what they said. And the Mark 42, the more goldish armor, they're releasing those. They're gonna retail $310 a piece.
Okay,
that's for the. But if you're absolutely wanting a bigger Iron Man figure, Sideshow Collectibles, our good friends at Sideshow Collectibles, who we love, just announced that they will be selling life-size Iron Man 3 Mark 42 armor figure. It's probably gonna their legendary scale Iron Man was $2,000. That's a half scale figure. So I'd imagine this one will retail around $5,000, and it will probably ship free.
Can you imagine how much? I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Is like it'd be hilarious if that thing went through General Postal Service. I mean, imagine this big, like the box rips. They're like, "What is in this box anyway?" And they open it. It's Iron Man armor, and like someone contacts Homeland Security or something. Like
Damien says on SideshowToy.com, he said, "Instant way to get a divorce. Buy one of these." And he's probably right. It's very good, Damien. We agree.
So cool. I want one.
I want one too. Maybe I'll sell my Hot Toys collection and get. If you had one of those, though, I mean, just the centerpiece of your collection. Now, but here's the one problem. Coming from Sideshow, one of the fingers may be broken off. Can you imagine ordering a $5,000 life-size figure and one of the hands is broke? I mean, what would you do? Can I get a replacement part for my $5,000 life-size Iron Man figure? It'll be a year, but we'll get that to you.
Crazy.
But anyway, let's get into epic news items of the week. Starting with some kind of sad epic news. Not as sad as the passing of Roger Ebert last week, but pretty damn devastating, I will say. Christopher Nolan is not going to direct, or it looks like oversee, the Justice League film. This was confirmed by Jeff Robinov, who is the president of Warner Brothers. He said that Nolan's Batman film stand alone. He will not direct or produce a Justice League film. He will not oversee that franchise. That he is fully committed to his next sci-fi action thriller, sci-fi action thriller, Interstellar. And that his Batman movies stand alone, and any Batman stuff will be a new start for the character from here forward. Interestingly enough,
so we're going to have Batman Begins again.
Probably not Batman Begins again. I don't know if they're going to do like a complete origin story. It may be kind of just one ingrained, kind of like in the Burton movie.
Yeah, that's true.
But the same day, producer of Man of Steel, Chris Robin, said that the film Man of Steel, the new Superman movie, produced by Christopher Nolan, oddly enough, and directed by Zack Snyder, will be the first step in establishing a new DC cinematic universe, kind of ushering that in, probably toward a Justice League film, much like Iron Man did for Marvel back in 2008, kind of starting the path toward the Avengers. So, Jerry, what's your reaction to this? We were pumped for Nolan, and as I ask you the question, it's just odd because if Nolan had a big influence on the Superman movie, making his tone more realistic. Even though he didn't direct it, he produced it, but his brother helped write the film.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like it will be a much darker take on Superman. So this is starting up the dominoes for hopefully a Justice League movie. But Nolan's not involved in a Justice League movie, but he's heavily involved in the film that will set this up. What do you think about this?
Well, Nolan's the producer. I mean, I was actually reading some interviews and some various things with him today. And I mean, he talked about it. I think he was influential in getting the pieces together for this, but he kind of said he did not want to direct this movie. He did not, want to have his thumbprint all over it. I kind of wonder how much we're truly seeing Nolan's vision in this movie. I mean, I
can actually help you out with that, Jerry. If you will let me, I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
I just want to read the direct quote from Chris Robin, the producer on Man of Steel. This is his quote regarding it setting up the cinematic universe in DC. It's setting the tone for what the movies are going to be like going forward. And that Man of Steel is definitely a first step. Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight series was deliberately and smartly positioned as a standalone. The world the films lived in was very isolated without any knowledge of other superheroes. He's referring to Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy with that. What director Zack Snyder and Chris Nolan have done with this film is allow you to really introduce other characters into the same world. Mm-hmm. So apparently it will be a universe friendly to introduce.
Right. So Superman.
Characters.
I mean, Superman already. When we have his story, it says, okay, here's a world where aliens make natural sense.
Yes.
Showing up, and there's other worlds. I just like that. Once again, I just like the fact that they're acknowledging that they are wanting to move forward by having the DC universe film wise. Be related to each other, that they're even starting to hint at plans and stuff, because I mean what Marvel did was just fantastic, and I don't understand why DC has had such a hard time doing it. I think it all goes back to DC usually seems to have such little faith in their characters. Every time they try to adapt a character for TV or any other project,
they want to almost separate it from what the character actually is.
Yeah, they want it to say like completely, this is not a comic book.
For example, Arrow.
Yeah, I mean, once again, that'd be like having an Iron Man movie called Man.
Yes, they didn't want to call it.
In what universe would that make sense to do that? Or I'm trying to think of another. Or having a Spider-Man movie just called
Spider.
Yeah, Spider. I mean, why would that make any sense? So why in the world can't we call him Green Arrow? The only thing I can think that would be logical is they did not want to confuse people with because Green Lantern had just come out and Green Hornet had just come out. But it's always this thing. I think DC wants to be like, when anytime they adapt their characters, this isn't a comic book. You know what? Marvel gleefully said, hey, these movies are very comic book-like. And people love them for that. I mean, they just have such a joy to them that reflects on all of those years of comic book stories.
They go Marvel, now owned by Disney.
Mm-hmm.
More than any other kind of superhero, or you can say more than any character based on a established property, whether it be a book, a board game, whatever. That they're making movies on board games now.
They are.
They go out of their way to make it as exactly like the character they're basing off of. I mean, you look no farther than Robert Downey Jr. So many times, I've read so many Iron Man comics before that, and it was him come to life on the screen. Yeah. I mean, that's like the perfect example of casting. That's, the upper echelon. But, I mean, they do that throughout. Chris Hemsworth made a very good Thor. Despite any kind of wariness I had about Chris Evans playing Captain America because he had already played Johnny Storm, he really hit that role on the head. Was it perfect? Maybe not, but it was still very well done. And so on and so on.
Once again, Marvel seems like that Marvel will say, listen, this is our character. This is what they do. We're not going to try to erase any of the elements that might be a little silly or goofy or dated or anything. They just throw the character out there.
Do you think Marvel is trying to maybe tap into a demographic that they don't have in your typical kind of comic book reader? I think with the title of Arrow, and it's
DC.
CW.
Yeah, CW's Arrow. That's a DC character.
Do you think that's really more? Yeah, DC. I apologize, but do you think that's more of because that seems very typical of CW sort of kind of thing.
I think with Arrow specifically, I've watched every episode.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy the show despite the name. It has some very Green Arrow elements. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's almost like if you took a Green Arrow comic book and the best parts of it, but mashed it with the not the OC, mm-hmm. probably more like One Tree Hill.
Yeah.
And I think they wanted it to kind of be like,
but they're reaching a new demographic, right?
Yeah, they are. They're able to, the people who like Green Arrow, the character, are going to watch it, but we're also going to get the teens, too, who want to see a love story. So it's pretty well done on the CW from a marketing standpoint. But if you're looking at it as a fan of the character, you can see where fanboys get annoyed.
And once again, they've been doing this for a long time, though, and they've had no success that has rivaled Marvel.
And I think with the movies, I think Jerry, you're right, spot on with what you're saying. I also think another problem with it is Marvel already, they set everything up. They pulled it off. They did it. They've had the big team-up movie, the big individual movies. But DC is not wanting to just copy their formula. They're wanting to do it a different way. And they had this great Batman franchise that's pretty much got to be left alone at this point. So you can't use that. Green Lantern tanked. Ryan Reynolds, even if people want to see another movie, he doesn't want to play that character again. I don't know who would want to see another one at this point with him as Hal Jordan. But they have their hands tied behind their back because they don't want to do it like Marvel did, but they want to do it. But I say if there's a blueprint there for success, man, follow it. Follow it.
Once again, the reason that Avengers succeeded was because they build up each character so you at least cared about each character. That the big team-up movie didn't have to introduce 6 or 7 separate characters. We were already familiar with them.
I'll tell you somewhere else it succeeded at. And Topless Robot had a great article on this today. It was the 8 things a Justice League movie needs to do. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about, it was Matthew who writes for them. I can't remember his last name. But he was talking about how each threat in the individual movies for Marvel kind of were smaller threats. Iron Man had to save the West Coast. Mm-hmm. It wasn't never really a worldwide threat. Hulk had to fight the Abomination in New York. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this could be the end of the world type deal. And then in Avengers, you have that world-ending threat, and this is an excuse to bring all these characters together. And it just meant so much more.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's indicative to the story of itself. You know, you've got one character can't say, you know, they're telling the story of one character can't save the whole world. It takes all of them together. to
exactly.
save
And
the
Justice
whole world.
League has Doomsday, who is the perfect character to knock things off.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, there's a lot. They have the issue isn't whether they have the characters. It's just are they going to use them and are they going to use them in the right way?
Exactly.
The way the characters are meant to be used and things of that nature. It'll be very interesting to see where it goes. It's such a Superman's so powerful. I mean, he could defeat anyone, and it's kind of hard for him to kind of ask for help.
But they've depowered him a little bit in the New 52.
Yes,
they've depowered him some, and that helps a bit, giving him more of a defined skill strength or skill set. They've kind of done the same thing with a lot of other characters. You know, they've worked them to make everybody workable. I really think the part of the New 52 blueprint with their main Justice League cast is to get 7 characters out there, let kids get familiar with them. Because, like I said, Cyborg is probably the character in the New Justice League that kids are most unfamiliar with. And most people are not real familiar with Cyborg. The little Super Friends toys, the stuff that are like done by Fisher-Price and, you know, the little kids' toys, Imaginext. Well, maybe not Imaginext, but the other one's a little bit bigger. They have Cyborg in them now.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, they're getting kids familiar with these characters, so if they do a movie, they can have sort of a already defined cast.
2 things that will be very interesting. Let's just say Man of Steel opens up very critically acclaimed, and it makes great money. You know, maybe, hopefully, it will gross $1 billion or so. And they're like, wait, we got another. Why don't we just go ahead and just make a Superman 2 and then scratch any plans we have for Justice League and just go and make this epic Man of Steel trilogy like they just did with the Dark Knight trilogy. Get Zack Snyder to do those. I'm afraid that might happen, and we're never going to see this Justice League movie. But another quote from David S. Goyer, who also worked on this film, he said, are there any surprises or any cameos or anything that may set up a Justice League film? He says, I would love to tell you yes or no, but I think it's going to be more exciting for people to keep a beady eye out and find out what they can find.
Which would stink if that was a no. It was like more exciting for you guys to be disappointed on you.
Doesn't that lead you to believe there's something here setting something
sounds
bigger
like
up?
Let's hope it's something more than just like a Easter egg background thing. Let's hope it's
something. Or we see a bat symbol or something, somewhere.
It would be cool, or some mention of something.
But the number one thing they need to do, and I mentioned this before when we were talking about Justice League, they have to find their non-Nolan director. They need to find somebody who loves these characters and understand them the way that Joss Whedon did, and it don't have to be the biggest A-lister.
Yeah.
It could be Zack Snyder. Who knows? I don't know if it will be. I mean, maybe they go for a more of an up-and-comer who is also established. Maybe somebody like a Rian Johnson who directed Looper and Brick and some movies like that. And he understands elements of this genre. You know, you have to almost find your J.J. Abrams, find your Joss Whedon. Nolan is a great filmmaker, my favorite filmmaker alive today. But he is a very hefty, weighty in terms of his message and tones, and ultimately, as much as I would have loved to have seen his Justice League movie, I don't know if it would have been the right choice for the characters.
Batman is always one of those characters to me that, I enjoy watching him in anything. I enjoy reading him in Justice League, but he's always a character to me that seems like he makes far less sense outside of his own books.
Yes, it's like, all right, he's fighting everything realistically and on the streets of Gotham, and then Justice League, he's in space. You're like...
I mean, it's interesting. It always works, but it doesn't work as well as having Batman solitary or with the people that he's brought together. Batman's, the Bat family, they're pretty normal people in terms of abilities.
Yeah. I wonder if we will ever get to see the Bat family reach its full potential the way it does in the comics. I think we may have got the best we're gonna get with Catwoman and Officer Blake and Jim Gordon.
I would gladly trade off a Justice League and a DC shared universe for somebody that was willing to do a Batman movie that realistically brought in Robin, that realistically brought in Batgirl and Batwoman. Yeah.
Maybe you did a standalone Batman movie with the origin ingrained in there, kind of like in the Burton film. And then the second movie, you do a good Robin.
Yeah.
And then maybe you will keep evolving to the Bat family. And that would be something interesting to see.
Or even start off with Batman and Robin, because once again, I mean, what's a more recognizable comic duo? You could start off with a good Batman and Robin movie that doesn't have to be an origin story.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even have to explain that to most people. They understand Batman and Robin. You could bring people in over other movies. You know, next movie, have Robin leave as Nightwing, bring in your next Robin. You could do a lot of things.
I agree.
After the Nolan movies, it's like, where do we go? Those were so good. Those were so successful. But I would like to see now, I mean, I'm more of a fan of the Nolan type serious Batman, where he's more of a detective. But I'm also a fan of some of his more, when he's fighting Clayface, when he's fighting Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, some more fantastical villains.
Yeah.
And I would like to see him kind of take on those.
Let's do a universe where all that stuff makes sense.
Yes.
But it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have to be silly. We don't have to be Batman and Robin and the '66 Batman to do a good Batman movie where weird characters make sense. It's just the type of environment. If you have the characters show up and Batman treats them as a serious threat and that they're a credible threat, they can be as weird as they
Filmmakers feel like they have to go one of two ways with Batman. Either this dark, over-the-top commentary on society through the character.
Yeah.
Or they go cheesy, over-the-top, unbelievable camp that sucks. Like Batman and Robin and Batman Forever, which I enjoy for some parts, but it's a bad movie.
Batman Returns is the closest to embracing the weirdness of the characters while still having a serious film.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see where Justice League goes. Another thing that broke out this week, another trailer that debuted that had kind of fallen off my radar, was the newest film by Neill Blomkamp. And it's going to star Matt Damon. Neill Blomkamp, for those of you who didn't know, he directed District 9. It's going to have Matt Damon. It's going to have Charlotte Copley in it, who was the lead in District 9. And so that trailer hit. It was very epic. So epic, we want to play a clip from that trailer right now.
I need to get to Elysium.
Whoever has this has the power to override their whole system.
Hey, bring down the bone saw!
This ain't gonna kill me. You can save everyone.
We're gonna break into the most heavily guarded place in the universe.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a clip from Elysium.
Elysium.
Yes, that was it's this brand new science fiction movie where it's a post-apocalyptic world on Earth where everything is just kind of going to crap, filled with pollution, filled with murder, filled with suicide. And then we have this other section called Elysium, where it looks like that, you know, everything's great, there's no disease, where the richer
people are in a machine
go.
that like removes cancer from their body.
Yes, it's just I believe it's set in the year 2154, if I'm not mistaken.
2154.
Yep.
And basically, it looks like from the trailer, the premise of the trailer is Matt Damon. We don't necessarily know if it's just because he wants to get there. Probably not. There's probably more to it. But he wants to get to Elysium. Mm-hmm. So, and to do this, he suits up in this almost mech suit type of thing that fuses with his spine, it looks like.
Yeah.
And the reason I kind of wanted to bring this film up is Jerry and I were discussing the Evil Dead, the remake, just called Evil Dead.
Evil Dead.
After we had saw it last Friday, and we were like, I was like, this is a great movie. I loved it, but it's just, I wish there were more original movies. I wish there were more Back to the Futures or Indiana Jones or stuff like there used to be. And And we were trying to think, what was the last really original big Hollywood movie? We both kind of agreed Nolan's Inception.
Yeah, for a big Hollywood release, I'm thinking Inception.
Yeah, and then, the trailer hits for Elysium this week. And Jerry, it looks like one of those films. What do you think about this?
I'm excited for it. Gina, what are your thoughts first? Jump in there.
Yeah, it looks really good. I would say that there are elements of it that don't seem that original to me. The whole guy has to get to some place. I'm going to predict, and I could be wrong, but I typically have good kind of gut feelings about these things. I'm predicting that it's a family something or another. He has either a wife or a child or someone who was captured or taken or has gone there, and he is trying to get to them. He's trying to retrieve them, something like that.
I think he has testicular cancer, and he wants to get in one of those machines and have it removed.
Have you seen District?
That's my guess.
I did see most of it. I got almost to the end.
And Jerry's seen it. That film it uses this kind of alien race that has inhabited this. It was Earth. Was it Earth?
Yeah, they came to Earth. I mean, they were refugees.
It was a big commentary on immigration,
and South African apartheid as well.
Yes,
very much so, and that's where it was set, was South Africa.
Yeah, it was a commentary on very heavy subjects.
Yeah,
yeah.
It reminded me of Schindler's List. In a lot of ways, it was a difficult movie to watch at times.
Yeah.
Very emotional.
And so you had this great kind of original science fiction movie with this kind of political backdrop of immigration. I think with Elysium, we're going to have something similar. I think it's going to be that whole 1%.
Yeah.
Versus the 99, except they're using science fiction elements to do it. To me, this could be a brilliant film,
It sounds good. Once again, there's a lot of movies that I guess it kind of reminds me of. There's some 70s-ish movies. Logan's Run.
Yes.
That's kind of a society that's more of like a utopia. What was the one that had Justin Timberlake in it?
In Time.
Yeah, In Time or something.
Did you see that movie?
I didn't.
That was very good.
I want to see that.
That was a 99 versus 1%
That's
movie.
always a theme in dystopian sci-fi, is having, a few people on top and everyone else at the bottom. Soylent Green, kind of has that feel to it as well.
I mean, it's not like the 99 1% commentary being provided in a film something new. In Time did it. The Dark Knight Rises
dealt with it as well.
Did it very well.
But just it does look very unique. It looks very interesting.
But to see it in a futuristic light, just
Matthew Damon is bald.
Yeah, and it's like
Matt Damon.
This is what happens if the world keeps living this way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not the social inequality gap is so bad that the society on Earth ceases to exist, and unless you're in the 1%, you live. It looks like utter hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're taking this to the extreme, giving you what the future could look like, and I think it has the potential to be a movie that's this great science fiction movie that people look back on years later and say, this movie was a great commentary on society, on what people thought it would be.
Good science fiction is prophetic in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a prophetic dimension to it,
even in literature. I mean, look at 1984
Yes, I
and
was about to
Fahrenheit
say
451.
Sure.
Like all of those are
That kind of Orwellian kind of backdrop.
Anything by Ray Bradbury. I mean, a lot of the Twilight Zone episodes that were, more sci-fi influenced. Sci-fi always has that dimension to it, and it could work well in this movie.
And this is only...
I'm excited.
This is only Neill Blomkamp's second film. I mean, District 9 was his first. It was pretty original.
That was a knock-up film. That was probably my favorite or second favorite
it
of that year.
It was in my top.
What year did it come out? 2009?
Yes, that was maybe my favorite film of that year.
It might have been.
And it was one of those films that really caught you off guard. You were like, wow, I did not expect this to be that good.
I was waiting to see kind of a found footage about people going in and fighting aliens, and you go out feeling like, man, people are cruddy.
Yes, exactly.
It's a good movie.
So, from what looks like a truly original, promising film to another film that was a promising remake or reboot, wouldn't you say, Jerry? Let's get into the Evil Dead remake / reboot, better known as simply Evil Dead.
Please. Please. You have to get me out of here.
So, Jerry, you're the biggest Evil Dead fan. You're one of the biggest Sam Raimi.
Overall?
Yeah, you're the biggest. I don't know about overall, but definitely that I know. The biggest Evil Dead fan, the biggest Bruce Campbell, the biggest Sam Raimi fan. So, Jerry, I would ask you to sit this up. Go ahead, and it kind of plays on the original, but it is its own story. So, sit up the story of this film for us, Jerry Reed.
Okay. In a lot of ways, the story isn't any different than the original Evil Dead. That a group of 5 20-somethings, head out to a cabin in the woods, and they end up finding this ancient, book that's a book of the dead, and, by somehow opening it, looking at it, reading passages, they let loose this evil into the world.
And it's never referred to as the Necronomicon.
It's not called the
book.
Necronomicon Ex Mortis in this one. It's called, I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. It's a Latin name, I believe, but I can't remember offhand what it's called. But, I think we're supposed to realize it's about the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's about the same thing. Original Evil Dead was a group of friends go to a cabin on spring break. This is a little different. There's a girl named Mia. Mia's mother has died recently. Mia's mother was mentally ill. Mia is on cocaine. She's been a cocaine addict.
Wasn't it a heroin too?
I think it was
she was shooting up. That's what led me to believe it.
I think it's cocaine.
Heroin.
Pretty sure it's cocaine, but it was a very hard drug that she was on.
It wasn't like she was smoking too much pot. This was a very legit cocaine or heroin. Both are about they're life-threatening
So
drugs.
2 of her friends from her hometown take her out to this cabin that she had went to as a child, and her brother comes and meets her. Her brother David, who sort of left when Mom got sick.
Almost an estranged brother.
Yeah, very estranged. When Mom got sick, David left. David didn't really come back. David's brought his girlfriend with him, and they're really staging kind of helping her get off this cold turkey. One of the girls is a nurse, so she's going to be aiding a little bit with some medical treatment. But they get out into this cabin, and Mia's hypersensitive. She's going through withdrawal, so she can, she's feeling things, she's smelling things, and she keeps saying she smells something dead. They brought their dog with them. The dog's name's Grandpa. And the dog is, sniffing on the floor of the cabin. And lo and behold, we find the hidden cellar, the door that goes down into the cellar. And they go down in the cellar. They find a room that's just all these dead cats are down there hanging from the ceiling. And there's the Book of the Dead. It's wrapped in, barbed wire. One guy starts reading it. Stuff starts happening. Mia decides she has to get out of there because she's starting to see things. She's starting to hear things. She goes into the woods, and when she comes out, she's not Mia anymore. And the movie continues with this entity, possessing the 20-somethings and turning them into what fans always call deadites. This movie never calls them deadites. But, they're always called deadites.
And obviously there's a lot of cool kills, cool scenes, and I'm going to do this very early in this review just so we can really get into all the... It's a remake. You kind of know what's coming. There's not
a lot of spoiler stuff in it, but I really can't even conceive of talking about this movie very much. I can say, just for anybody that really is concerned about spoilers, as a fan of The Evil Dead, I really like this movie. There are 3 things, and I talked about these in my review, that I think are unique to The Evil Dead. There's 3 things that, to me, make The Evil Dead's experience. First of all, they've always had excessive violence or excessive blood. Even Army of Darkness, which doesn't have a lot of violence in it, uses blood for comedic effect. There's a scene in Army of Darkness where, they throw somebody in this pit, and you get a literal geyser of blood just shoots out. You can tell that, Sam Raimi thinks that's really funny. It is really funny. I mean, there's something that's kind of shocking about
like
it.
out of a hose, too.
Yeah, I mean, Evil Dead 2 has a scene where blood just gushes into the cabin and, like, fills the room. It's just comedic and shocking. This movie is not very comedic, but it does have a lot of violence in it. We'll get more into that as we get in later into the view. And Gina's squirming right now because Gina didn't see this movie.
I did not go and
you don't
see
like
it.
horror movies.
I don't like horror movies.
So
I
you're-
have a weak stomach when it comes to gore.
Yeah.
I will say, on an initial non-spoiler initial reaction, that I like what Alvarez and Raimi producing it and Bruce Campbell producing it did. It would have been not easy. They couldn't have done it. They couldn't have remade this movie. It's a B-movie cult classic. And if you try to recapture that, you're going to alienate the fans who follow the original, and it's not going to do well with wide audiences.
Fans really fought this movie because for years there's been talk of an Evil Dead 4. There's always been talk about it. And, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell have always kind of been like, yeah, I would like to do it, but, time wasn't right.
Sam Raimi was doing Spider-Man.
He was doing Spider-Man for long. Bruce Campbell's had other projects that he's been involved with. I think they really wanted to move forward with this remake. Initially, fans were just so antagonistic about it that they stopped. They didn't even move forward with it. But then they said, no, we've got an idea, we've got a good story, we've got a good director and script, we're going to move forward with it. And I think I've seen a lot of Evil Dead fans seem to embrace the movie. I mean, there's some people that just seem to hate it, but I think they would just hate it regardless of what it was.
It separates itself from the original. Instead of trying to do what that film did well, it's like, let's give a darker, kind of more straight horror movie.
Yeah.
Not that the Evil Dead's a great horror movie, but it's a camp horror.
It's got some elements to it that I think this movie preserves, and I'll talk about that. That there is a comedic aspect to some of the scenes in this movie. We'll get to that more when we get to the spoilers, because I don't think I can talk about it without spoilers. But I'll say a lot of fans were just... The idea of remaking The Evil Dead means... People thought initially was, we have to recast Ash.
Yes.
Bruce Campbell's role as
mistake.
Ash Williams is probably one of the most iconic roles in cult film. I mean, bar none. He is an iconic character. And I would not like to see anybody else play him. He's one of those characters that I can't see anybody else ever playing
that character is him.
It very much just seems like, I mean, I don't know that it's Bruce Campbell, but it very much just seems like he made that character. It's his character. I don't want to see anybody else play the character.
People said that about the Joker, Jerry. Said nobody can play him but Jack Nicholson.
But people had already played the Joker for years, and he was based on something else.
That's true.
He was based on a writing of someone else.
But you're always going to have those people who are hardcore fans of the property,
sure.
like you, are going to say, no, they can't do it. Nobody can play him.
But let's take one...
But I'm in agreement. Yeah. I don't think nobody can play him. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate.
I think this is one character that, somebody has established, and... It's kind of like, why would you want someone else to portray that character? I mean, it's like an impersonator. Yeah, they're kind of cool, but...
Yeah, like an Elvis impersonator.
Yeah, but come along
to the beach. Ooh, legends in concert,
Let's
baby.
never really pretend that it's Elvis. Let's not really make an Evil Dead movie with Ash.
Some people who drink enough might think
they
it's
might
Elvis
think it's
or the Beatles, so you never know.
So... When we found out that Ash wasn't going to be in the movie, they weren't even going to try to redo Ash, I think people felt a lot better now that we know that this movie seems to be part of a larger aspect. That the goal for this movie is that Fede Alvarez is going to work on an Evil Dead 2.
Which is not going to be a remake of Evil Dead 2. It's going to be a separate story from that film. It will continue the story of Mia, I believe.
Right. And then Sam Raimi is going to be working on Army of Darkness 2 with Bruce Campbell.
He's going to write the script this summer.
So that's the 4th film in that series. And then the goal is to do a 7th film that is an overall film that combines these two continuities together.
Which, if they can pull it off, would be...
absolutely epic.
Yes.
It would be like maybe one of the best movie series of all time. I would go nuts over.
And it will be, I can't wait to, I know we're a long ways away, but I can't wait to see how they would kind of converge these two universes. It would be easy to do, I think, with just the elements of horror
and there's some
time
elements
travel.
in this movie. Like, I mean, I don't think it's a big spoiler. We see Ash's car in the woods.
Yes.
We see Ash's
Very
car
early
rusty.
on in the film.
You know, it's all beat up and old.
So it makes you wonder, is this just in the future, the same cabin and everything in the future, or...
Fede Alvarez has said he could see this happening as, at some time after everything that happened in the former Evil Dead movies, a family bought this cabin, those kids grew up there, went there for the summers, they've been gone for years, weird stuff started happening again, now they show back up.
Yes, I like that. I really like that instead of, hey, we're just rebooting the whole thing.
Exactly. Let's tie it in. There's some cool nods to the Evil Dead. Let's roll the spoilers, and then we'll talk about this movie.
All right, roll the reel forward to spoilers. All right, now we can kind of get into some of the more bloody and disgusting parts of this film, Jerry.
All right.
I may have to step out.
Gina may have to step out. This movie, first of all, I think to me one of the most impressive things about this movie is that other than post-production touch-up, there were no CGI effects in this movie at all. It was all done with actual... visual effects, prosthetics,
animatronics.
Stuff like that. They learned magic tricks.
$17 million budget, which $17 million is a lot of money, but not for a movie.
Yeah.
Not for a movie.
And it's already made 33.8.
And it looks amazing.
Wasn't Burt Wonderstone like 30 million?
I think so.
Probably. Yeah. This looks amazing. When you see some of these gore effects, and I mean, that sounds crazy. This was not a movie for me like Hostel or Saw, where I walked out and I felt like sick to my stomach. I don't enjoy those kind of movies. I really didn't enjoy... the first Saw was okay. I did not enjoy the second one. Hated the third one. Didn't see any more.
I like the first two in that
Hostel
series.
disturbed me greatly. This is a very different kind of movie. These are people fighting, possessed people, monsters. I mean, yeah, it's gory, it's bloody, it's violent, but there's still kind of a battle to it rather than just watching somebody, mutilate another person. There's very much a battle aspect.
But it's a hard R horror film.
It is a hard R horror movie.
It was... When they originally screened this, it was unrated.
Yeah,
it was worse than R. So they did scale it
because
back.
of the violence.
Yes,
so,
violence.
Yeah.
There's no nudity.
There's no nudity.
Film.
There was a little bit of language in it, but I mean, it was because of the violence. And Brad, what were some of the scenes of violence that stood out to you?
Well, there were so many, but number one, there were two in particular, but number one was. Whenever the teacher who was getting attacked, Eric, who was getting attacked at the time, was trying to block. This is when Mia's possessed by the Deadite. She's a Deadite, to say.
Yeah.
And she takes a crowbar. First of all, Eric went through hell in this film.
Oh my gosh, he's a teacher, but he's this character that just keeps coming back. I mean, you think, okay, he's gonna be dead now, and he's like, oh, I'm not dead yet. And you're like, oh my gosh.
No, I'm not dead yet.
Almost to where it's comedic. And at first, with Eric, I
think that's part of that comedic Evil Dead aspect that was present there.
I told Jerry one of the things I didn't like about the film is it seems like for these characters didn't have a lot of personality. Mia did. She's a fantastic lead character. Mm-hmm. But other than that, a lot of the other characters were just there. Eric just seemed so just whatever. But me and him were talking, and we kind of come to the conclusion, after he kind of convinced me, that Eric, it was more going for that. He keeps coming back. That's kind of comedic, but he almost had a deadpan sense of humor to him as well. So it wasn't a lack of acting on Eric's, on Lou Taylor Picky. That's who played Eric.
I think all of the, it's probably Pucci.
Sorry. But no, the scene, though, is
Pookie was Garfield's teddy bear.
Yeah, okay, Poochie. When Eric was holding up his hand and the Deadite was taking the crowbar, literally splits his hand in two.
Fingers just go like, oh,
mutilated.
Oh my god!
Like, and it's just like,
yeah, that was
holy-
rough. That was rough.
That was just one where you're like, oh.
All
now,
right.
see, I can speak to that from like a makeup special effects aspect.
Gina's been hit by a crowbar before. And, all right.
No, I did 2 years in college on special effects makeup and design, and like this is the kind of movie that effects designers and makeup designers love, because truthfully, if you meet a real theater or movie special effects makeup person, the thing they love most is gore, because it is so fun. And I've done gore makeup multiple times for productions and things like that.
We should go watch it so you can give us some commentary.
Yeah, that would be the only way I could
That
get
is true.
through
I've
it.
seen so many Walking Dead featurettes, and they're just
Yeah.
having a blast making
Oh,
them
man.
walkers, doing the blood and guts. So
Yeah.
that's very much so
I
true.
mean, watch Face Off on Sci-Fi, which is the competition. It's like chopped for the
it's
special
not the
effects.
Nicolas Cage and
John Travolta movie. That's
which is
what
a great
somebody
movie.
was telling me about Face Off, and they're like, "Oh, it's really neat." I'm like, I'm like, is it based on that? I saw the movie. They're like, they made a movie of it. I'm like, yeah. And I'm explaining the plot.
It's John Woo. He directed.
Yeah, and they're
Face
like,
Off.
I guess it's based off that movie. I'm like,
if there was a Face Off TV show, I would know about it. I'd be watching it.
That was a
No,
good
but
movie.
anyway, the Face Off TV show on Sci-Fi, they have challenges, and pretty much every single one of them is like there is some sort of gore
Yeah.
element. Like,
I think that's
just what we love as makeup designers.
The other scene, if I can go ahead and get into
give me
this,
another one.
and this is the one that I know Jerry kind of geeked out with, was the kind of the retake on the call to arms scene.
Yes.
And Jerry, I'll let you just speak on that. Just
Okay.
set up the scene and how you felt.
So probably the most iconic thing about Ash in the original movies is that in the second Evil Dead, he gets bit on the hand, and his hand gets possessed. Not his whole body, his hand.
It's hilarious.
It is so funny. His hand is punching him. His hand is like picking plates up and breaking them on his head.
And he's playing so well.
Yeah.
Off of it.
So he's trying to do. So he takes a copy of a book, A Call to Arms, or Farewell to Arms.
Yeah.
And he
That's it.
he puts it over his, puts it on his arm or over his hand, and then he cuts his hand off with a chainsaw.
Oh my god!
And so then he ends up like making a strap so he can hook the chainsaw on his hand and use it for the rest of the movie.
Weapons in movie history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this movie has it that one of the girls gets bitten by Mia. I think her name's Natalie. She's David's girlfriend. And so she's, it's a little more serious, but one of the things about the Deadites is they're very mocking. I mean, they talk about, the person that's been possessed, and they're like, oh, they're rotting in hell, and, stuff like that. I mean, they're always saying, like, just really nasty, profane things. So Natalie decides, okay, her hand is like turning. She realizes her hand's turning evil. It's going up her hand. She pulls an electric meat carver, which we saw used earlier in the movie, and she saws her arm off.
And the first thing I thought of was ABC's of Death. Which
Okay,
we talked
where the
about
girl
a
used
few-
electric meat carver to cut off the fat on her
Oh,
body.
no, let's not
Yeah.
talk about that one. That's still
Okay. Oh, you should have been here
which
for that
letter
discussion.
Was that?
That was
X is
X
for
is for extra
large.
large. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so then the characters show up later on, and you see Natalie turned against the wall, and they're like, Natalie, are you okay? And she turns around, her arm's missing. She goes, yes, I'm much better now after I cut my arm off.
And you hate to laugh because this is like this gory scene, but it's just like...
it's that kind of thing. And here's the thing about this movie. We knew that Ash wasn't going to be recasted. We knew that.
Mia essentially becomes
We're
Ash.
waiting to see throughout this movie who is going to be the next Ash. We're like, okay, wait a minute. Eric kind of knows what's going on. He's checking
more
out
of
the
a
book.
good side character.
Yeah. But we're like, okay, David's got the blue shirt. David seems to be kind of the take charge
Mia's
person throughout a
brother.
lot of the movie. And then Natalie cuts her arm off, and we're like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe she's going to replace her arm with something else and fight people.
But before we get into that, because I know
Yes.
exactly where you're going, setting Mia's up character, we have to talk about the other gruesome death scene, which
All right.
was the nurse. the nurse's name. The nurse who was there to assist him with Mia.
Oh, Olivia.
Olivia. So Olivia, she almost carves her face out. It almost reminded you of the Doll Maker in Detective Comics #1.
Cuts
with
the skin off her.
Joker's
Well, I had a
face.
couple scenes that you didn't even mention. Okay, one when Mia is a deadite, she's in the they lock her in the cellar, kind of like the way they locked Henrietta Noseby in the cellar in Evil Dead 2. She's taunting Natalie, and she takes a box cutter, utility knife, and just holds it against her tongue and slices her own tongue.
That was in the Red Band trailer.
Yeah, it was
that
in the trailer.
Just so gruesome.
Oh my gosh! I mean, just to taunt her. This is the possessed, Mia, just doing that to taunt this girl. That was extremely gruesome.
She was just so you could just.
It was a different actress. It was a different actress playing her.
Oh really?
It was not the same actress. I didn't realize that at first.
Okay.
So different actress. That was one of the most gruesome scenes. Another one was that when Eric goes to check on Olivia, the nurse, while she's carving her face off, he's trying to use a sedative on her, a needle, and she grabs it and she's stabbing him
with a needle.
Yeah, so he's,
in the face.
Yeah, he's blocking it, and then as he finally beats her head in with the edge of a toilet seat or something. It's a close-up of him pulling the needle out of his lower eye.
Oh, that was so just
because needles in your eye are just two things that shouldn't go together.
Oh, I'm so glad I didn't see this movie.
So that was amazing. That was so crazy.
Olivia with the face carving off.
Oh, that was pretty gruesome.
They gave that close-up and that whole... She was smiling,
and she's like, why so serious? That's really what she said.
You want to know how I got these scars? Yeah. That wasn't in there.
I was reading the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. Okay,
that was a very gruesome scene.
So we've established that this is a gruesome movie.
We were talking about the lead.
We've established that people fight back in this movie, which is a very Evil Dead thing. That people fight back against the monsters. They're not just victims.
So let's speak of Mia before she gets possessed.
Okay.
Then kind of her progression as a character.
Well, she's going through withdrawal, so she's all over the place.
But speak to kind of the rehash of that iconic tree rape scene.
Okay.
In this one.
That was a scene from the original Evil Dead that was really crazy. A girl's going through the woods and whatever the evil is that's in the woods, and you get the idea that a tree branch rapes her, Yes. They kind of redo it in Evil Dead 2, not as weird.
Well, I thought this was worse. I felt so
very
uncomfortable
different.
Watching this scene.
There is another girl who is a deadite that Mia is seeing. And since Mia is going through withdrawal, we're not sure if she's seeing something. Who is this girl? She's trying to leave the cabin. She wrecks her car. She ends up running into the woods to head back towards the cabin or whatever. She keeps seeing this girl. The woods kind of ensnare her, and the girl shows up, and from her mouth, it was very serpent-like. It was a mass of vines and creepers and
big slug.
Yeah, but it was looked like it was made of vines and creepers.
If you've ever seen the movie Slither, it looked like something out of that film.
It comes out of her mouth. And then it crawls across the ground and crawls up Mia's leg
into her dress
and disappears. And that's when she is infected with the evil.
And your mind can imagine where it goes.
So it was a very gruesome scene, and that was kind of one of the elements from the original Evil Dead. Once again, it was very creepy and disturbing, and it was this evil was just truly taking over her and doing the most dehumanizing thing possible that you could do to somebody.
And boy, it very much did so. And then she's possessed. She does great as the Deadite, even though it's a different actress. Just she's so dirty, just saying so many things. Anything evil you can imagine, whether it be threatening, sexually, she's saying these things. And it's just oh my God, this is evil incarnate. You really feel that from her.
You're rooting for the characters, get rid of these things,
exactly.
And that's the hard call, is that these aren't just zombies or something. These are their friends.
Yeah, your friend. You kind of think
something else taking them over.
What if this was you and your friends?
Yeah.
And your family members in this. Like, it's so.
It's a very I mean,
and then they flip for a second to their normal self.
It's one of the tricks that these things have. Is like kind of coming and going too.
But so Mia, go ahead and set up how Mia's brother is able to cast out the Deadite. There's 3 ways to cast out this evil.
They're checking out the Necronomicon and or the whatever they call it in this movie. So anyways, they're checking it out. There's 3 ways to get rid of the evil. One is to burn the person alive,
which we see at the beginning of a film. Almost
there's a little prologue scene that shows someone doing that.
Yes.
The second way is dismembering them completely, which we see that kind of in Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, and actually originally Evil Dead. They always dismember these things, but it usually doesn't get rid of the evil. It just kind of has them wiggling around. The third was by burying them alive,
which is the choice used in this film.
Sure, he buries. So David buries his sister alive in a scene very reminiscent of Ash burying his girlfriend in Evil Dead 2.
But he has a trick up his sleeve. He's gonna bury her alive, then use a homemade defibrillator he's rigged up to bring Mia back to life. So he's almost kind of play God. She's dead, but he's gonna bring her back to life.
It's like
really
a car
quick.
battery or something, right? Like a jumper thing.
Yes,
it's pretty crazy. But once again, I mean, this is Evil Dead,
so he buries her alive. The Deadites cast out of Mia, and then we have. The defibrillator, she's dead, you believe. And then the defibrillator, he's able to defibrillate her and cast her out. And who is left back in the house at this point? It is Eric.
Eric's still hanging on.
Yeah.
Eric. Is Eric a Deadite at this point?
Eric's not.
But who is it that recall Eric's fate at this point near the end of the film?
David goes in the basement.
No, Eric and David's fate. Sorry.
Okay.
Both of them.
Eric and David are in the house, and one of the Deadites is still in there, and they end up blowing up.
It's the blonde.
Natalie. Natalie's coming after them, and they end up blowing up the inside of the cabin. So the cabin's on fire. It kills David and Eric, but Mia's able to escape. But the girl that she saw earlier, this earlier Deadite that had come out of the ground, she's been at the cabin for a while.
And kind of put the evil inside of her.
Yeah, the one who put the evil inside of her is now coming after Mia, and Mia's alone by herself.
And this is where Mia becomes the Ash of this franchise, it looks like.
They talk about Eric is the one who's, in many ways, he's the professor character. In Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, the whole reason stuff happens is that the cabin belonged to a professor who was translating this Book of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And he was recording his translations on an old reel-to-reel recorder. And so when
That's R-E-E-L, real.
Oh, clever, Brad. When he plays, when the characters play the recording, it plays these ancient words that bring these things back to life. In this one, Eric decides to translate the book for himself. He kind of has this, I guess academic bent to him. And as he's doing that, he reads some words that he probably shouldn't have, which brings things back to life. There's kind of this thing about whenever this being, so whether it's like Satan or whatever it's supposed to be, some evil demon has 5 souls, it'll rain blood and the end of the world will come.
Well, it has 5 souls
starts
at this point because
raining blood.
Yes.
And Mia's out. The cabin is on fire. She's out in the woods. It's raining blood.
She's the only one left.
And this thing is coming after her. And it is one of the most epic climaxes I have seen in a movie because we are watching her go from running from this thing to she takes charge. She loses a hand in the fight, which kind of cements
her. Trapped under the car.
Under a car, and she pulls it off.
She's trying to reach the chainsaw to get it off. But she pulls it, which she dismembers her own hand. And it's a very brutal scene.
She's hardcore like that. And so, hail to the queen, baby. That's what I said when I saw that scene. So anyway, she gets the thing. She quotes an Ash line on this thing. I won't spoil it for everybody because they'll wonder which Ash line gets quoted in this movie. She kills this deadite with a chainsaw.
You can spoil it. Let's spoil
Oh,
it.
we're spoiler free. Okay.
I'll say it, but I won't. Okay, I'll give you the clean version since we're trying to keep a clean rating. She's like, feast on this.
Swallow this, mother effer.
Swallow? I thought she said feast
swallow. Because she says, I'll swallow your soul is what the deadites always say. And Ash's line is swallow this, because he pulls the shotgun up and shoots it.
She's like, swallow this, mother.
Yep, that's what she says. And once again cements herself as, okay, this is the female.
And just to
this
see
is
her
the one
journey
who's in charge.
You thought, okay, she's just going to be the character who gets them to this location for all hell to break loose. Then you're like, okay, she's just going to be the possessed character like Ash's girlfriend in the first movie. And then you're like, whoa, now she's the lead character of the film and looks like this new Evil Dead franchise. So it's interesting to have her progress and kind of the dynamic of her character journey flipped on its head.
Very much so. I mean, you really did not know who was going to end up being that, that surviving character who fought for their survival.
And I mean, it was an iconic, epic scene in general, that finale with the blood raining, but it was just, it gave you, the blood raining added so much to it, but it gave you that so much classic, at this point, almost slasher horror film.
Yeah.
Kind of like, Jason's after me, I gotta get away from him, or Freddy, where the character is running, and she was cornered in the shed. I know Evil Dead's not a slasher film per se, it's more of a zombie type movie. But still, it was kind of cool to see like one of the most classic tropes in horror played out in this epic blood raining down series. It was just really well done. And the movie, Alvarez shot this movie beautifully. I mean, everything looked so gritty, so realistic. It was just shot really well. I don't know if it was shot on film or shot completely digital.
Yeah, I don't know that.
But it had a film quality to it.
There were some times too, because I mean, one of the things Sam Raimi is famous for is camera work. That if he doesn't, if there's not a way to do a camera angle that he wants, he invented something. I mean, he invented all kinds of camera angles and camera gadgets and stuff for the original Evil Dead movies. I mean, they were just making stuff up on the fly. There are some really cool scenes that pay homage to that. The opening scene is almost like a up in the sky shot, and then it sort of flips down. It's hard to explain. There's a great shot that kind of references the classic light bulb filling with blood scene in Evil Dead 2. Yeah, really, really good direction. Some cool nods to the Evil Dead. A couple things that, a lot of folks, I'm sure Evil Dead fans picked up on an instant. One, we talked about Ash's car is out there in the woods. Number two, we see someone wearing, I think it's Mia, wearing a Michigan State sweatshirt, which we see on characters in Evil Dead and in the Evil Dead.
Which we assume that's where Ash and them were going.
Yeah, they were from Michigan State, and obviously the Raimi crew, Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, they're all from Michigan as well. Characters talk about Flint, which I was born in Flint, Michigan, actually, so that was kind of cool. They mentioned Flint in Evil Dead. The spyglass necklace. David gives Mia this necklace that looks kind of like a magnifying glass. Not spyglass, magnifying glass. And he gives it to her, before she goes through this, process of fighting her addiction. In Evil Dead, Ash gives that necklace to his girlfriend. He gives her this necklace that looks like a magnifying glass. That was kind of a cool throwback. There are a couple.
Of course, we already mentioned the "swallow this" line was used
swallow
again.
this.
We mentioned the kind of farewell to arms scene was played out twice in this movie with the car dismemberment with Mia, and then the carving knife with David's girlfriend. So I mean, there were all kinds of homage to the original throughout the course.
Some of the images in this movie calls it the Naturam de Monto. It's the name of the book.
That's the Necronomicon.
Some of the images in there were actually really reminiscent of like Evil Dead movie posters or some of the publicity art. Some of the images that look like ancient drawn images, they were really referencing kind of some of the Evil Dead posters. So that was really cool. At the end of the credits, we hear Professor Noseby from Evil Dead 2. We hear his famous lines where he's talking about, they came for my wife and now they're coming for me. And then when the credits end, we have an amazing scene. So stay to the end credits, where we see the profile of Bruce Campbell as Ash, who looks over at the camera and says, "Groovy."
Yes, that was really epic.
It
was
was
pretty cool end credit scene.
It was a pretty cool end credit scene. I didn't know about the first time, so I had to go back and check it out again.
We missed it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Once again, lots of little things. Some of the elements in the movie reminded me of the humor of The Evil Dead. There was a scene where Mia's trying to get away from the Deadite. At the end of the movie, the Deadites, she's climbing in the walls of the work shed. And the Deadite is using a machete and stabbing it through the walls.
What an intense scene.
It's it's an intense scene.
True suspense
And
horror.
yet, there's a humor in the way the machete pops through the wall. That's almost Looney Tunes like.
Kind of reminds you of Burt Wonderstone when those swords were coming through when Steve Carell.
I think Fede Alvarez really understood that blend of humor. The same with the nail gun scene where Deadite Natalie is shooting the nail guns, this big nail gun at David and Eric.
There was a scene like that in Final Destination 3 as well, kind of reminded me of that.
But obviously they're getting stabbed with these nails, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's scary, it's gruesome, and all of a sudden they're like ducking behind stuff, and you're seeing the nails pop through, and there's something comedic about it.
You're like, oh crap.
There was, I could tell, I was joking with my wife, I said I could tell who the Evil Dead fans were, because there's a scene where Mia walks up to somebody, and, this is where she's not full-on Deadite yet. And she just, massive bloody vomit. I mean, this is ridiculous. Just all over another character. And there are
Olivia, the nurse.
And some of us in the movie, they just start laughing. And it's just kind of that awkward, uncomfortable, nature that it's gross, it's disgusting, but there's something funny and shocking about it, too. That I think Sam Raimi always put in those movies. And the best thing, though, if you've seen Drag Me to Hell, which was a really funny movie, when the corpse vomits and bombing fluid all over, that was so hilarious.
I wasn't a huge fan. That's probably my least favorite Raimi.
Okay.
It was good for being that
I was waiting for her to become the Ash-like character in that movie. I was hoping...
Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, I was really hoping she would
be. The good news is, Jerry Reed, you got that with Mia in Evil Dead.
Absolutely. So
I'll go ahead and say my final thoughts on this film, and I'll let Jerry wrap it up because this franchise is near and dear to his heart. I will say, I don't know if this film did anything truly to kind of rewrite this classic story, but I think what it did do is create a different kind of tone, while at the same time paying homage to all the original stuff with the nods that we talked about throughout the course of this review. And I think it was the right decision that they said, hey, instead of just, revamping this whole thing, let's do the things that works with the Evil Dead, but just give it kind of a different tone and make it its own thing. While at the same time, they kept the heart of that film. There were some of those comedic elements. And overall, I would confirm it at, I'd say great and a half. I say not quite epic. Jerry,
I'm
your
confirming
thoughts?
It epic. It was the first movie for me this year that I'm confirming epic. To see in theaters. I had one negative for the whole movie, and it was there's an opening scene where we see a Deadite. In the original Evil Dead, it takes a long time for us before we see a Deadite. The movie builds and builds and builds. The first time you watch it is an incredibly tense movie, and you're just waiting and waiting for something to happen. This movie just spoiled it in minutes and said, within the first 2 minutes, hey, this is what the Deadites look like. And I just thought that was a really poor idea on their part.
Yes.
But
but at the same time, that's kind of a nitpick on your part. It's not anything that...
It's a nitpick for me.
Oh, this really brought
I think
down
it would have
the
been a
film.
stronger movie overall. I'm just not sure where that scene would have fit in. But I thought it was an epic movie. I enjoyed it. It was, if we had got this and they said there's no Evil Dead 4, this is Evil Dead 4, I'm not sure how it would have felt. But if this is a side Evil Dead story, this is a whole new story, I enjoyed it. Really liked this movie.
Yes, and it definitely has you looking forward to how, not only the sequel to this remake, but kind of how this will parallel, and just kind of thought that maybe somewhere down the road we'll get to see Ash and Mia interact. That's just
that
pretty
would be
epic
pretty cool
to think about.
We will try to see if we can get Gina to watch Army of Darkness.
Yes, that's not very
Army
much
of
a horror
Darkness is
film.
not a horror film. It is kind of a comedic horror adventure in a lot of ways, but I'm trying to think of
More of a time travel film.
More of a time travel. Yeah, I'm trying to think what I would compare it to. My mother has seen Army of Darkness, and she liked it, so I think you'd be saying... My grandmother's probably seen it, too, because I discovered it a summer I was staying at my grandmother's house and watched it all the time.
But we, obviously, with me at Great and a Half, you at Epic,
Epic.
we recommend this film if you can handle the horror genre,
Hey,
but it is gory.
Yeah, if you didn't turn off this podcast while we were discussing it, you might be okay with it. Gina's like, I'm not going to watch it. So, once again, if you are planning to go in and saying, I think I'm going to really enjoy a gory horror movie that just kind of relishes in that stuff, go for it. If not, this is not a movie for you.
And I think it will be one of those ones for the people who like it, which will be enjoyable through multiple viewings when it hits Blu-ray and DVD. And you're able to say, hey, check this out. Maybe the people who didn't see The Evil Dead and the Evil Dead, just Evil Dead, the remake in the theaters, will say, all right, I'll check it out. And I think there'll be a lot of enjoyment and kind of repeat viewings when this hits.
There are two movies I've seen this year in theaters that I plan on picking up on
I can guess.
Blu-ray and DVD.
Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
That's the first one.
And Evil Dead.
That's the second one.
Exactly.
Everyone has their type.
Like the Necronomicon. All right, I don't know that, but all right. So I think that's just about going to wrap us up for this week. Jerry, where can we find more of your stuff this week?
Well, other than the epicreview.com, check out all my pictures on www.flickr.com/photos/barbecue17 BARBECUE17.
Miss Gina Wiltshire. I almost said Gina. Miss Gina Wiltshire. Where can we find more of your work?
Well, I'm hopefully going to get some stuff up on the website, theepicreview.com.
We hope so, too.
Doing some Netflix stuff and some technology reviews about comic book apps on smartphones and that kind of stuff.
All right, and on Twitter, right?
I am on Twitter at Geener. So that's GENERBEENER.
As for me, you can always find all of my work on thepicreview.com and, of course, at my Twitter page at The Real Brad Bell. That's REEL Brad Bell. And anytime you have any questions or comments for the show, you can email us at thepicreview.com. Remember to like us on Facebook. Just search TH Epic Review, where I post breaking epic news daily. And until next week, we are out. This edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast was brought to you by
S-Mart. Shop smart. Shop S-Mart. You got that?